Friends, Peggy Hall back with you from the healthyamerican.org. I'm streaming live this evening, and I would love to hear where you are tuning in from. And I also would like to know, since many of you have commented on how much you love seeing my dog and my cat in the background, do you have animals? Let me know about your animals. Let me know the story of your animals. Our animals are all rescue animals. I've talked about them in the past. They bring so much joy to my life. And I was tending to them right before coming online. So they are top of mind. And I know how much they enrich our lives. It is very troubling to me to hear reports out of the, it's called the WEF. I have a different acronym for it, the World Economic Forum, where they want us to do away with our pets. I saw that one coming a long time ago. So we need to be examples of all that is good and true and right in the world. And there's my little girl right now. I did feed her twice, and boy, oh boy, does she want more attention. So let's do this, friends. We're going to be talking about redemption. And hang on, let me make sure everything is operating with the live stream. Okay, we're going to be talking about redemption. And I've got 3 remarkable stories that I want to share with you. And then I'm going to share with you this beautiful handwritten note from a young, healthy American. So stay tuned until the end. Friends, this is a topic that many of you have been asking me about, and it's something that is very important to me. And I had a remarkable experience 2 days ago. It actually started almost 3 years ago when all of the hogwash started. And I'm going to tell you all about that. And I would also like to hear from you if you have been, and I predict you have been, dealing with loved ones, with coworkers, with neighbors, with church members, with fill in the blank, anybody that you interact with, and you still can't believe that they still don't get it. In fact, I want to grab my phone here because I have something on my phone that I want to share with you. And this is what put me in mind of thinking about this program for you tonight. So let's go back to, I'm just going to round it out to 3 years ago, because that's really when all of the hogwash started. I live in California, and California was the first state to declare a state of emergency. To my knowledge, I was the first person that publicly claimed and called out and pointed out, based on the facts, that there was no emergency. There was no evidence for an emergency. According to the law in California, which is called the California Emergency Services Act, there are there's very specific criteria that needs to be met, and it hadn't been met in California. And probably like me, you smelled something fishy. And I was talking to people, and I couldn't believe that they didn't know the law. I couldn't believe that they thought that a governor could tell you what to do, that a governor could tell you to close down your business and well, the schools are a part of the government, but private schools didn't need to close. Businesses didn't need to close. Anything that was under the government purview, for example, if there was a city swimming pool, in the case of my city, they closed it down because it was the government. But in terms of private businesses, private schools, private individuals, the government has zero authority to tell you what to do. And I've been talking about that for 3 years. I captured the attention of many people, of millions of people, because that video went viral and it launched the channel that I have here, which is The Healthy American. By the way, I hope you're subscribed. If you get value out of my messages, if you would like to get more positive encouragement, that is over at my other channel on YouTube called Living Swell with Peggy Hall. And I have a broadcast there every Monday where we talk about how to keep your head above the waves in these stormy seas of life. It's more lifestyle and emotional, mental, physical health, spiritual health as well. I don't really get into the politics and, current events as much, although there is a little crossover. But if you would like to take a break from the spin cycle, that's where you can find me on Mondays. So I launched my Healthy American channel as an educational platform to help you learn about your rights, to have a place where you could come together as a part of the Healthy American community, to be in a place where we focus on positive solutions. It's not the spin cycle. It's not, fear mongering or flu mongering, as I've coined. So I like to expose evil and then give you the tools to fight it. So that is really what sets me apart from a lot of other YouTubers that are all doom and gloom. And there is a lot of doom and gloom, don't get me wrong, but I don't like to be left hanging. I don't like to live in anxiety, and I don't like to live in dread or fear. I would much rather offer solutions and strategies. All of this is tied into the topic about redemption, because when I launched this channel, I had so many people that maybe hadn't heard from me in a while, or maybe we weren't really in contact or something. But because this video was making the rounds, I had a lot of people reach out to me that I hadn't heard from in a long time. And I'm talking about all the way back to high school years, and then throughout my adult life. And even in more recent times where maybe I had gotten out of touch with folks in the last couple of years or so, churches that I had stopped going to, but I still knew people. I had all these people reaching out to me saying, "Oh my gosh, Peggy, is that you? Somebody sent me this video, and go for it. You're so glad that you're speaking out. You're exactly right. I feel the same way. I'm so glad somebody is voicing how I feel." So I had a large number of people giving me those comments. And I had a large number of people saying, "You are out of your mind. Why are you killing people? I can't believe you're doing this. How could you be so insensitive? How could you be so uncaring? Why do you want to kill grandma?" I know this happened to you as well. And I want to hear your stories. So please let me know in a comment how people treated you. And I would also like to know, perhaps you are more, how shall I say, you're newly awakened to the truth of the hogwash. And that's fantastic as well. We want everyone on board. I love this painting behind me because it's such a reminder of, let's hop on board, all hands on deck. Let's leave the hogwash in the dust. But I'm always available to throw out the life preserver for those that are like, "Hey, wait, I didn't know. I'm drowning here. Help me out." No one is left behind. Where I draw the line, and maybe that's the wrong phrase to use, where I am a little bit bent out of shape. Well, there's three categories of people. There are those like us that knew what was going on from the beginning, that questioned, that didn't just accept things blindly. In fact, I think I'm one of the very few that knew from the very, very get-go that it was all a bunch of hogwash. There are many people out there, many truthers, many prominent people in the field that went along with it. They actually did. They put on the self-suffocation device. They closed their businesses. They kept their kids out of school. They did not fight back until maybe several weeks into it or however long into it. And then it dawned on them that it's like, wow, this doesn't make sense. And you know what? That's great. I'm glad it dawned on them. I'm just saying that there is a very small number of people that knew from the very get-go. And it was frustrating for us, those of us that knew that, because we were trying to educate others about the tyranny, about the oppression, about the fake, phony, false, fraudulent hogwash that was going on. And people were willingly enslaving themselves. They were locking themselves in their own houses and basically throwing away the key, thinking that they were going to be saving lives. And I have extended family members, cousins and so forth, that were like, "I could never forgive myself if I killed somebody." And, these are compassionate people. And my question to them was, "Wait, are you running around with a machete? Like, what do you mean you could never forgive yourself how could you kill somebody?" Well, they were brainwashed by all of the hogwash. And really, my heart goes out to them. Let me say it, in the beginning, I was just baffled and confounded by the fact that they couldn't see it, that people are so willing to just go along with what the government says without even asking a three-letter word, which is why. Just ask why. Why? Why? Why do you have the authority to do this? Why are we doing this? Why are you telling me to do this? At least question it. And the reason why people didn't, and it's because of a four-letter word called fear. They live in fear. They want the government or somebody else to tell them what to do. And that, again, requires a great deal of compassion from us, because how sad to live your life with somebody else telling you what to do. Just does not compute with me. And I know there are many that for some reason they had deficits in their upbringing, or maybe their own faculties are not operating at full capacity. And for some reason, they need others to be responsible for them. And there obviously are valid situations, the very young, the very old, the incapacitated. But fully operational adults should be responsible for their choices. That's where I stand. And that position has caused a great deal of friction and breaks with relationships and family members in my life. And I know that's happened to you because you've written to me and you've told me about that. Now, mine might be quite mild compared to others. Number one, both of my parents are deceased. I will tell you unequivocally that they would have called BS on this from the get-go. That's probably where I inherited it. My mom was an emergency room nurse for over 40 years. She did not have much trust in the medical, how do I call it? The mainstream medical merry-go-round system because of everything that she saw. So she was much more aligned with natural healing, and she was in the ER. So her type of nursing was about, trauma care and putting the cast on the broken leg and, being in the OR as they're stitching up the laceration or what have you. She was not a part of this mainstream medical merry-go-round. I know that she never would have complied with any of it. The same with my dad. He never even wore a seatbelt because he knew back then that no one had the right to tell him what to do with his actions that were not harming anyone. How in the world does my dad wearing a seatbelt or not wearing a seatbelt have anything to do with anyone else? Bring on the comments. Oh, I've heard them before and I've got answers for them. Yes. It's basically they were preparing us for this as well. So there is self-responsibility. All right. I'm not responsible for anybody wearing a seatbelt, and they're not responsible for me. I do wear one, but they're not responsible for me. Okay. I don't have to wear a raincoat to keep everybody else dry in the rain. And their raincoat doesn't work only if mine does. I think I said that correctly. I have to wear a raincoat in order for their raincoat to work. It doesn't operate like that. I've used these very simple examples from the very beginning when I started attempting to educate people on Facebook. Wow, was that a big mistake? That was probably the fastest departure of friends ever because I was simply sharing data, actual numbers that, believe it or not, came from the CDC about previous year flu data and other data state by state. I went county by county and I showed, it's probably still up on my Facebook way back, photos from 3 years ago. And I was showing how the numbers in each county in California did not rise to the level of an emergency. And what I had was people excoriating me, not even saying, hey, how did you come up with that? Or even saying something along the lines of, well, I see your numbers, but I'm concerned about what might happen. I mean, people did not even want to have a rational conversation. Why? Fear, hijacked by fear. And I will also add in there TV, brainwashed, propagandized, and, just having the hogwash sloshed all over them eagerly, giddily, willingly. They loved it. They were addicted to it. It was like these NFL football games. I also know people, strangely, that appeared disappointed that these horrible numbers didn't play out. Isn't that weird? It was almost like they were a part of something like thrilling and exciting. And I will also say, I was going to do my 3 categories of people, and I'll just put that in that category, that some people, sadly, and I know some of them, their lives were rather humdrum. And when all of this excitement and drama came along, they were a part of something. They were like a medical doctor wearing the suffocation device. And basically they were like a surgeon saving lives by staying home. And now their lives had purpose and meaning. I have so much compassion for people who fell into that. How sad that the government and the evildoers took away your ability to participate. And again, they didn't take it away because the individuals gave it up. They willingly gave up their ability to participate fully in life because the government told them that now they were saving lives. And now they finally felt that their lives had meaning. That is so sad to me. Here's the categories of people. People like you and me that knew it from the very beginning, or we know it now. All right. Then there's the people like the ones I'm describing that are so gripped by fear and ignorance and ineptitude, meaning they don't have, I'm just going to call it as I sees it. They don't have the mental capacity or the intelligence to ask questions, to dig deeper, to think critically, to draw conclusions. and they just go along with it. That's the second category of people. I have so much compassion for that sad state of affairs that they willingly enslave themselves. And there's also anger and frustration, but I want to focus on the compassion. And then there's the third group of people that I have very little compassion for. Can you guess what that group consists of? So we've got those that are awake to what's going on, either at the very beginning, like you and me, or maybe took a little while for people to come on board, but they finally got it. And then there are those that are like, Peggy, you're wrong. I've seen the data. All my family and friends have had cooties. I can't believe that you're, anti this and anti that. Yeah, folks, I'm pro freedom. Okay. I'm pro life. I'm not anti anything other than anti evil. And if that's bad, well, as my dad used to say, sue me, which is pretty funny because I'm suing the evildoers. I know he would be very happy with what I'm doing. The third category, this is where, Lord help me, because I am in grave need of grace for these people. What is it you said? You're exactly right. Those who know it's wrong, and what do? They go along with it anyway. What in the world? Seriously, those are the ones that are the problem. And let me also say this. Many people, understandably, will express a statement along the lines of this. We need a national movement. We all need to stick together. We all need to rise up at the same time. My answer is no, we don't. I know that may be shocking for some of you. Let me explain. We need each individual standing up for what is right. That's all that needs to be done. I've never complied one iota, and I'm not going to. Many of you are the same way. It takes each individual living in liberty, as I call it. I like the alliteration of the L's. Living in truth and freedom, speaking out for it, yes. I think it's fantastic when people do group activities. They go to these meetings, they go to the, rallies, they sign the petitions. I've spoken about how action is important, taking action that's right for you. But don't be snookered, bamboozled, and hoodwinked into thinking that the reason why things aren't going well is because we don't have a national movement. Friends, I can't even get along with my cousin. How in the world am I going to get along with the nation? People don't think the same way. Even those that are on board, there are many. Well, I'll just take myself, for example. I'm a conservative Christian. I am anti-abortion. All right. I'm anti slaughtering innocent babies. That's who I am. And there are many in the freedom movement that believe that women should have the freedom to kill their babies. Seriously, I've had these discussions. I have many other opinions about the environment, about electric cars, about, climate crisis that don't line up with other freedom fighter views. And that's okay. It's okay that we have different opinions and views. And I'm in favor of that. It's called free speech. So not everyone is lumped in the same. So if you're thinking of having one national movement, it doesn't work. That is the nature of socialism, of communism. Is everybody together? No, it's each individual with individual rights and individual responsibility and individual liberty, period. There's no such thing as equality. There's no such thing as equity. It doesn't exist. I could spend my days complaining that I'm not 5'7" with long brown hair, although I could do the long brown hair, or that I'm not, the owner of a private jet. Friends, that is so not realistic. So this idea of one national organization where we're all of like minds, no. Each business staying open, each parent taking the child out of school, each person finding a different way for medical care, a different way for travel. People's choices are their choices. Just don't tell me that you had to do it. So that's the category of people where I really feel a great deal of frustration, where they say, I'm all about this, yet they put on the suffocation device to fly to go see their grandkids. You know what? Go fly to see your grandkids, put on the suffocation device. That's your choice. But just know that you complied with tyranny and own it and say, you know what? I made this choice. And there are many people that actually got the jab and they said, I had to do it. No, they didn't. They didn't. They chose to do it. Well, Peggy, there you go again. You're not raising kids and you're not working at a hospital. And no, I'm not. But I know thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are raising kids, some that are single parents, some that are on government assistance, and they have not complied one iota. I also have told you of the story of a woman who was laid off illegally from her nursing, from her hospital. And she was a single mom and she was trying to pay the rent. So she went back to work and she got the jab. And 2 weeks later, they fired her because no job is secure. And if you are giving over your life, and it's not even your life, it's your soul. Life is temporary. Your soul is eternal. So I care more about the soul than I do about the life. You're giving that over for money? No, there's always another way. And that is where community does come in handy. That's where I talk about being connected with like-minded people. It might be a church. It might be other family members. It might be people that you met at these rallies and events. So there is value there. But let's not give away our personal responsibility to others. All right. This is about redemption, but I had to give you all of that foundation because I know that you most likely experienced what I did. And I had people in droves just excoriating me on Facebook. And then people that I didn't even know, horrible, evil, vindictive, just evil, unspeakable things that they did and threatened and all of that. But I have the protection of God. He told me to do this. And I was especially stunned by those that are people of faith, more explicitly Christians. And they were treating me with disdain while I was honoring God. So let me talk about redemption because I have some powerful stories that I want to use to inspire you. Let me go back prior to all of this. So let's say maybe it was in 2019. And back in the day, I actually had, I've always been a teacher and so forth. And one of the jobs that I had was a part-time job that I absolutely loved, where I was teaching water fitness classes. And during one of the classes, a couple of the ladies right up front, right by me, I was standing on the pool deck. They were carrying on a conversation so loud that nobody else could hear my instruction. And I bent down and I said very nicely, I'm an affable person. I'm not one of those like really powerful, pushy people. I'm just like friendly, affable, lighthearted. And I said, hey, ladies, just can you tone it down a little bit because they're telling me they can't hear. Something along those lines. I might have said, oh, do you mind taking the conversation over there? Or in a very lighthearted, friendly manner. I didn't call them out in front of the whole class. I didn't use any harsh language. And that was that. Well, I noticed that one of those ladies over the next several weeks was very petulant, like a child, as if she had been scolded by a parent. And she would come late. She would leave early. She had a scowl on her face. She would do her own exercises at a different part of the pool. And I could pick up the vibe, like she was sort of punishing me or trying to give the feel that like I had wronged her. And it was so strange for like a woman in her 60s to be acting that way. So, and I could have been totally off base. Maybe she had a toothache and upset with her husband. It had nothing to do with me. I don't even know what was going on, and that's not important. What's important was my reaction. So the fact is she would come late, leave early, do her own exercises, had a very sour look on her face, kind of sending the daggers. That's how I received it. But here's where I went wrong. I kind of, in my own mind, ratcheted up the negativity toward her as well. Lord, forgive me. I'm just coming out with the truth. And I would start thinking things like, oh, I hope she's not in class today. Or I can't believe that she's acting like a child. All these thoughts were going through my mind. Let me know if you can relate. Again, I repent, but hey, I'm just human. And I was hurt by her actions, just like she apparently was hurt by my actions. And I found myself in this state of negativity, going to the pool day after day, hoping that she wouldn't be there. And, maybe I could ignore her at a higher level than she was ignoring me. It was so childish. I was ashamed of my feelings and my outlook and my attitude. So here's where the story gets interesting. I determined and I decided that, and I remembered that trying to use negative emotion to overcome a negative situation was not going to work. It's even biblical. Biblical says you cannot overcome evil with evil. She's not evil. I wasn't evil, but just to give you an analogy, and that you can't overcome darkness with darkness. I mean, only light can overcome the darkness. So I specifically and intentionally said to myself, I am going to do a 180. I am going to look forward to her coming. And I hope that she's getting a great workout. I'm going to give her a big smile at her. I'm going to go out of my way to say hello. And I am going to do everything to pave the way and make it as appealing and positive and encouraging and uplifting and light as possible. It wasn't easy, but I did it. And immediately I felt better. Now, some may say that was a form of forgiveness, and it possibly was. But the point is that I intentionally determined to no longer have my feelings of negativity and frustration and like, what is wrong with that woman? Seriously, that's what I was thinking. That was not serving me. It was draining my energy. It was making me feel horrible. And I didn't want to feel horrible. I wanted to feel excited and optimistic, and I wanted to enjoy teaching my classes without having that pebble in my shoe, so to speak. So I think I started doing that maybe on a Thursday or a Friday. And the following week, I kid you not, go back to the teaching on Monday, and there she is on time, totally on time. In the water, back up front where she used to be when the incident occurred. And she's following all of my exercises exactly this way this happened. And then wait for it. She stayed throughout the whole class. She didn't get out early. And then as everybody's getting out, I'm putting away the equipment. People are toweling off. She came up to me and she said, Peggy, that was one of the best classes you've taught. Thank you so much. What say you? I want to know if that has happened to you. Now, granted, that has nothing. Well, let me recant that. You may think this has nothing to do with the hogwash, but it has so much to do with it, because that experience was so profound. It reminded me of, godly principles of focusing on the positive, of overcoming the dark with the light, of not holding a grudge, of forgiving. And besides, I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to think like that. I didn't want her to have power over me to ruin my moods. So let's fast forward now to 2020. And Facebook is like a bar brawl. People are just battling it out. And my husband says, sweetheart, you are a teacher. Why don't you get out of Facebook? It's like a dive bar in there. And you should make a video on YouTube, because that's what you do. You're a teacher. People like to learn things on YouTube. And so that's what I did. And there were other people coming out of the woodwork that I had known from the past that now somehow saw me. I guess people were sending videos or what have you. And again, people just saying, wow, I thought I knew you. I cannot believe how hate-filled you are, and how you want to harm people, and you're killing people with your words. And these were people that I had had as students for years, emailing me. I mean, just taking time to text me vile messages. And I realized, oh my gosh, that's kind of like what I was doing with that student. I was never vile, but their anger. So that's what I want to talk about. The first emotion for most people on both sides is anger. They were so angry at me that I dare speak out against the the narrative, that I dare question, because I don't have all the answers, but I was questioning what was going on. How dare I say that I had compassion for people who lived with depression and anxiety because it was going to get worse now that they had to stay home and, couldn't interact. And somebody said, well, I think that's a good thing. Now everybody can see what depression and anxiety is like. Okay, this is mental illness. This is the level at which people stooped to justify the evil that was going on because they could not face the reality of the takeover, of our freedom takeover. And I don't like to use that word because I never gave up my freedom. I'm certainly not, I'm in a communist state, that's for sure, but I find my ways around that. I have not willingly given up, given over, or given in, and I will not do so. So anger coming from those that are following along, and I think that was a huge aspect of the jab at work. So these HR people are probably thinking, I had to do it. I'm not going to let you off the hook. Don't you think that was a big part of it? These commanders in the military, I had to do it. I'm not going to approve this. Plus, they were told not to approve those. But even just in the run-of-the-mill companies, I had to do it. Isn't that, it's childish again, kind of like that woman. Like, how childish? What do your actions have to do with me? Oh, I know, nothing. Bizarre. But the anger is understandable. So when these text messages come in, I don't even reply. Okay. I'm not going to try to defend myself or, justify anything. They're blind to the truth. What I can do is continue doing what I'm doing and pray, and then I'm going to reinforce what I just talked about. Use the powers of prayer, of good, of compassion. Love is a little hard to stir up sometimes, but even if you could get to that level of even loving these people that are persecuting you, we're called to do that in a godly manner. But I tell you, it's really difficult. But I think the first level is understanding their anger and their pain and their frustration. They're living in fear. It's so sad when I think about the animals that are rescued off the street, or they were abused or neglected, and then they're brought into the animal shelter and they're assessed as feral, meaning wild, or vicious. And they're neither of those. They're afraid. They're cornered. They're in a cage. They don't know where they are. Of course, they're going to bite or scratch because they're terrified. And then the most unspeakable actions happen that they get put down just because of that situation where nobody took the time to soothe them and get them through this. Now, we're going on 3 years, and I've personally heard from people that, like I say, have gotten one cocktail, they've gotten 2 cocktails, they went along with all the scams, they shut their businesses down, they took their kids out of school. And I'm telling you, there are some prominent people in the field that were speaking out about the benefits of the suffocation devices. And now suddenly when the cocktails come in, oh, government overreach. Just saying, I hope that they came to their senses. Everybody learns at a different rate. And my sister is always telling me, Peggy, not everybody's intelligent. They just don't have the level of intelligence that's needed to discern what's going on. And it's kind of sad to consider that, but it's a possibility. And of course, fear hijacks those who are intelligent and they just can't see straight. So what I learned, and then I'm going to give you a couple more examples that are very, very powerful, and that helped me a lot. And one was just a couple of days ago. So in the beginning, I was trying to justify myself, and I was emailing people, and I was commenting on YouTube and Facebook, and I was saying, wait a minute, blah, blah, blah. And I realized this is just going downhill really fast. I remember being at my sister's house on Facebook with the daughter of a dear friend that I haven't spoken to in 3 years, if you know what I mean. And the daughter, very sweet. And I had a relationship with her. We had been in contact over the years. She was an adult daughter, and we'd been in contact over the years. She was very interested in natural living and wellness. And so she would text me with questions about this or that. So we already had established a very congenial relationship. So when all of this happened, she wasn't coming out and attacking me, but she was saying, I can't, she said that she was immunocompromised and that she would like it better if other people wore the devices around her so that she would feel more protected. And then my question to her was, well, if you're wearing one, why do I have to? And then she didn't have an answer for that, because it's more protection. And my question was, well, does it work? If it works, then you're covered. And if it doesn't work, then why do I have to do it? And of course, all the memes were going on about, oh, well, you need 2, you need 3 or whatever. And I kept texting saying, but if you're wearing one, why do I have to? But if you're wearing one, it was going on and on. My sister said, if you say that one more time, I'm going to go crazy, because I never got an answer. And I finally ended the conversation by saying, why don't you just wear mine as well? Problem solved. There, I fixed it. Now you can have mine on as well. And it's even closer. You know how ridiculous all of that was, but people's feelings were hurt. And so here's one example. I didn't hear from her again. I don't think she unfriended me or anything, but we just realized this conversation was going nowhere. But it's not as though the relationship was broken off, because about a year later, she reached out to me again and she said, Peggy, what information can you give me? Because my mother-in-law wants my kids to wear the devices and I don't want them to. Success. It took her a year to come around. But again, I didn't throw any evil darts at her. I didn't say that she, was too dumb to figure it out. I mean, of course, I'm not going to do that. So I just tried to educate as the best that I could. And then about a year later, she came around and she was concerned about her own little ones, probably 5 and 7, something like that. And the mother, the grandmother of these kids living in fear. So I thought that was also a success story. Now, let me bring you up to date on this most recent one, which is absolutely stunning. One of my oldest friends, somebody that I call a lifetime friend, meaning we may not have been, in contact for every year over the last several decades, but most of the time. And we always checked in and we were just like soul sisters, and lots of wonderful memories of youth and all of that. Very, very close. And again, a person of very strong faith, and just absolutely cut me off. I think unfriended, unsubscribed. And, that's fine. I don't need to have friends on Facebook. That's not important to me. What's important to me is that people, how can I put this? I want people to see the truth. I want people to see the truth about our world, our reality. I want them to see the truth about me. And sadly, many of these friends and family members and those that were texting me the vile messages didn't even apparently take the time to even listen to a video, to even read a document, to even understand what I was about. Because nowhere ever will you hear me talk about, like I'm anti-V, all right? Okay, I am, but I never talk about it. That's not the issue. I have said that I'm never going to get it. I don't even care if it's filled with Hershey's chocolate syrup and it helps you live to be 120. I'm not going to do it. Why? Because it's my choice. And you have a choice. And they have a choice. And that's what I stand for, is freedom. So these individuals were so gripped by fear that they filled in their own blank, thinking that I was spewing some type of some hate-filled messages about whatever. I don't even talk about the cocktail. I don't talk about the ingredients. I don't talk about the side effects. I don't talk about the reports. I don't talk about any of that. Now, I have had some guest speakers and guest authors on my newsletter, but you have never seen me write about that at length because it's not interesting to me. Hashtag never have, never will. Just like I don't have tattoos. I'm not going to spend time telling people not to get one or analyzing why they have one. You want one? Go get it. Don't make me get one. That's all I ask. You want to smoke? I don't smoke. You want to go to a bar? I don't drink. That's the nature of individual liberty and freedom. That's what I stand for. Now, I want to help people see the truth so that they're not living in fear. And I want to empower them, because there are those that maybe even in the third category, that want to do what's right, but they don't know how. They want to not wear the suffocation device in the doctor's office, but they don't know how. So that's where my education comes in. So what's sad to me is the number of people that totally wrote me off, that, and again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't care what other people think. I only care what I think, and I only care what God thinks. I want to honor God. But what's sad to me is where they are missing out on information that could help them. That's why it bothers me, that they immediately check out, they slap a label on who I am and what I do without even bothering to dig deeper. Much like those living in fear, they don't dig deeper. The t-shirt coming soon, hashtag dig deeper. It's just stunning to me how lazy people can be. And that's what Pastor David said. A lot of them are just lazy. They don't want to do the work. I spend hours researching this, hours producing the website. That I'm driven because I'm driven by exposing the hogwashers. I'm driven by wanting to help you get through all this. So let me bring you up to date now on the final story of redemption. So there were two stories there. And this one, the longtime friend that basically cut me out of her life, I even sent little text messages from time to time with a little emoji, and very, very just basically no contact. So I'm going to keep this a little bit general, but let's just say that I found out from a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend that somehow they were continuing to, I don't want to say badmouth me, but that's the phrase that comes to mind, among other friends that may actually support what I'm doing. And I was so, I will say that did sting. And the reason why is, number one, why would you talk, about that? I'm not even there. What was the point of even talking about that in a get together that had nothing to do with any of this whatsoever? So that was strange to me. And it told me that they still were hanging on to their hurt about my actions. Now that, again, that's not even the most important point, because I have no control over their thoughts, over their emotions. It's their thoughts, their emotions. They can interpret what I do. They have a right to be wrong about it. A lot of people are wrong about a lot of things. So I can't fix that. I'm not going to lose time or sleep over it. But here's where it gets interesting. I found myself, like in the example of the water exercise, I found myself once more getting all bent out of shape, getting all indignant. Like, how dare she? I can't believe after all these years, she still doesn't know who I am. Well, that's it. I'm throwing away everything she ever gave me, and I'm never going to talk to her again. Friends, I'm just being honest with you. This was the flood of emotions that went through me at the time, because I was upset that they still couldn't see what I was doing all this time. And they were still so hoodwinked, bamboozled, and hogwashed by the powers that are peddling the fear. It's like, I can't believe it. After all this time, you would think that you would, be getting with it a little bit. But no, they still were like, I can't believe Peggy went off the rails. So yeah, I was affected by that. I'm telling you, this was a couple of days ago. So there I go again. I'm into my, almost like I can out anger her, right? Like if they're angry about me, I'm going to be even, because there were a couple of friends, I can be more angry than them. Like, okay, that doesn't work. It might feel good. Actually, it didn't even feel good. Anger is a natural, understandable, common response. Sometimes it's even appropriate. I'm angry over abortion. I'm angry over animal cruelty. I should be angry. Anger is a natural response to injustice. So they were angry because they saw what I was doing as an injustice to the world, that I wasn't doing the common good and all that stuff. So it's natural and understandable and common to have that emotion. And I felt it, and I journaled about it, and I crumbled it up, and I threw it away, and I started throwing away the letters, and I felt better, actually. And then little bit later, I was actually in the shower. Does that ever happen to you? You have good ideas like when you're in the shower, washing the dishes or something. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm going through that same scenario of when I tried to, it wasn't anger, but I tried to criticize that student in my water aerobics class. She was being really petulant. So I was trying to, outdo her. And it's like, that doesn't get you anywhere. So at that moment, once more, I determined, I said, oh, wow, I am not going to let anger and hurtful feelings and, dislike, or I'm not going to let that creep in. Who I am today, who she is today, has zero impact on all of those previous good years of friendship. I'm not going to let this ruin it. That's what the evildoers want. They want us to destroy these relationships and to live in, hate-filled emotions. And hate is a strong word. I didn't hate her, but, I was upset. I was angry. I was indignant. And I consciously determined to stop it. And I had to intentionally bring up emotions and memories of facts, of situations that we had, of experiences that we had in the past, and all of the qualities that I admire about her and why we were such good friends. And I was praying for her, and I was sending her all the best in terms of not only opening her eyes to the truth of what was going on, but living out of fear. And I just wanted her to feel my compassion in my heart. Now, yes, my little Elsie still wants some attention. All right, now here's where it gets really, really interesting. I felt so much better after changing that outlook from frustration and indignation and hurt to forgiveness and compassion and love and light. And, things might change and our relationship might come out to the forefront. So that night, I had a dream about this dear friend, a very vivid dream. And it was her and her husband, and she was looking beautiful. And she was actually on a show. Maybe she was on a YouTube show. Maybe she was on my show. And she looked beautiful and happy. And I'm like, okay, thank you, Lord. I think that means something. I think that means that hurts have been resolved and all of that. Get this. All right, I'm not going to show this to you, but I'm going to read it to you. So that happened that very night after I determined and intentionally decided that I was not going to live in that pain and hurt emotions. So the next day, after I wake up, after the dream of the person that I've not seen for 3 years, that used to be my lifetime friend, she sent me a beautiful meme that said, a special prayer for you. Okay, this is the following day. A special prayer for you. May you know that God is by your side, and may you feel his deep, tender love with you every moment of every day. And get this, friends, she wrote, I had a dream about you last night. I hope you are happy and healthy. Friends, those are my stories of redemption, the power of prayer, of forgiveness. I would even say understanding, acceptance, and compassion. I'm deeply compassionate for those that are so troubled, that are living in fear, that are blinded by fear, that are not living life because they're afraid of dying, so they're afraid of living. In my outlook, that is a sin against God because he gave you life with a purpose. The anger is understandable, and the sadness, regrets, all of that is a part of it as well. But then understanding, I understand that not everyone sees things the way I do. I understand that not everybody has the curiosity to dig deeper. I accept the fact that not everyone has the skill of discernment or critical thinking. I accept the fact that some people want to be told what to do. So it doesn't mean that I agree with it, I approve of it, I applaud it, not at all, but I accept it. Just like we are asking them to accept the reality of being hoodwinked, bamboozled, and snookered, I have to accept their reality that they just don't, they're just not there yet. So friends, I hope that this is helpful for you. The takeaway is to look at these individuals, the hurts that you've had. Can you find some lineage, some tie back of what you loved about them, of what the relationship meant? Can you find a way to pray for them, to send them love and understanding, forgiveness, acceptance? None of that was done verbally. All right. And I emailed back, I texted back and I said, you're not going to believe it. I had a dream about you as well. You're always in my heart. And I hope you're doing well as well. But major breakthrough. Now, I see it because I changed my outlook. I did not hang on to those negative thoughts and feelings, which had just occurred very, very strongly. So friends, I just couldn't wait to share that with you. And let me do one final thing. I'm going to share this lovely letter that was actually even hand designed by this young, healthy American who sent me a few dollars as well. I'm so grateful. These things really, really touch my heart. So let me finish off with this young lady's letter. And I'm going to keep her name confidential. And she says, hello, Peggy, my name is, and I am 14. I live in Sacramento, California, so not too far from where you live. I just want you to know that I listen to your videos a lot, and they always make me feel better, even if I don't understand everything you say. That's so sweet. This money is for your lawsuit, even though it's not too much. Friends, there's something in the Bible called the widow's mite, where she tithes the smallest amount of money, but it was the most amount of money to her. And I am so grateful to you, my lovely, healthy American. Your contribution touched me deeply, and it is used 100% in this fight for freedom. She said, my dad lost his job about 1.5 years ago. Well, he was put on unpaid leave anyway, because he would not give them his cocktail status. Oh, I forgot to mention that my dad worked for, let me just say, a government agency. Anyway, when he was put on leave shortly thereafter, we decided to sue the agency. Yes. After they realized that my dad was suing them, the agency offered his job back, but he had already gotten another job. We have not gone to court yet, but my point was with this story is that it must be scary, because I know I'm scared for the day we go to court for my dad. Also, I want to say that when I get old enough, I want to be just like you and do what you do. That is, if all this hogwash is still going on, which I'm sure it will be, I will pray for you and your lawsuit tonight. Love. Friends, all of the work, all of the heartache, all of the losses, all of the sacrifices, all of the broken relationships, all of the upsets, in my view, are 100% worth it when I get a letter like this. She is going to fight tyranny. She's 13 years old. This is the hope of our future. These young people. This is why I do what I do, friends. And I know that that's why you're on board as well. Wow, that one really, really got to me. Thank you, everybody. Boy, that chat is flying by. I will take a look at your comments, and I love to hear from all of you. We've got Margie, Valerie on board. Thank you so much, Rhonda, for being our moderators. And most of all, thanks to all of you healthy Americans. It's okay if we don't see eye to eye. That's what makes life so interesting and enriching, that we have different perspectives. Where I draw the line is about truth, and I draw the line about our rights and freedom. But as long as we're in that playing field, bring it on. You like coffee, somebody likes tea, you want a tattoo, I don't. This is all what makes life so rich and interesting. And I'm grateful for your views. I'm grateful for your insights. And if you have not yet gotten on the Healthy American newsletter, it's free, and it's over at thehealthyamerican.org. We also have a Substack, which is different than a newsletter. The newsletter is where I put links to the videos and a few, event updates and so forth. The Substack, that includes detailed articles where we go on a deep dive, for example, about medical rights and so many things. And you can get it for free. So I have the link for you in the description box below. Please sign up for the Substack. It's really easy to share. And for those people that don't like to sit through a video, you can just share the Substack. Now, I will give you a little tip here. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at the live stream right here. And if you would like to see the transcript, you click on these three little dots here. And then I don't know if it's going to show it right now. No, it's probably because it's my channel. But after the show is over, you click on those little three dots and you can say show transcript. I believe that happens on every public channel. Hopefully I'm right. So if you wanted to read what I said instead. All right, friends. Yeah, I want you to know that I pray for you as well. And I want you to know that there is always hope for the future. These relationships may not be broken forever. And I exhort you to not be the cause of the break. Don't hold a grudge. Keep your heart open. I know I went through, like, I'd thrown away all the letters and everything. That was my fit of anger and it felt good. But I don't want to be the cause of the break. I want to keep the door open. I want to keep my heart and soul open. Otherwise, friends, the evildoers win. So I wanted to remind myself of this message because I know that I do have my rants and my righteous indignation, ideally not against, people, but against evil. That's where I want to keep that. So thank you for keeping me in line as well. All right, friends, have a wonderful evening. I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming video. There's so much to talk about. I've got the climate crisis in California. Oh my gosh, I've got lists and lists of videos. So be sure you tune in. Thanks for bringing a friend, and I'll see you very soon.